Welcome to another video about how to help you to do better in legal studies. So one of the big things that we're starting this week is the assessment task. It's an argumentative essay, and there'll be more information about how that best works in the coming weeks. But basically, the big focus now is on negligence. So we've done the background to civil law, and now what we need to do is we need to really focus in on negligence. The easiest way to think about negligence is that somebody is owed a duty of care for some reason. So it might be a teacher owing a student a duty of care. It might be a parent owing a child a duty of care. It might be an employer owing an employee an ability of care. It might be a shop owner owing the duty to care for somebody who walks around in their shop. And so if, say in that last scenario, the shopkeeper doesn't maintain, safety standards, so they have like wet floors and they don't quickly get a mop and clean it up and then put up a sign saying this floor is slippery, the people who injure themselves in that situation have been wronged. It's called a tort, the tort of negligence. And so their civil wrong that's been done to them needs to be remedied somehow. And the usual way that's remedied is by, in that example, the shopkeeper paying for some of their hospital and other medical expenses, or maybe their work-related expenses because they couldn't work for a period of time while they were recovering from the injuries that they had from the slippery floor. That wouldn't have happened if the shopkeeper had done the right thing in terms of safety. And so negligence is a really important area of law. Personal injury law is actually one of the biggest areas in the legal system in the world, but particularly in Queensland, there's quite a lot of litigation that occurs around people feeling like somebody has let them down and it has led to them suffering some sort of a loss that they need remedied. And so keep that in mind over the next few weeks while working through the content on negligence. It's really important with the assignment thinking, it's an argumentative essay. There are two sides to it. And so what you're going to do is you're going to come up with a thesis, and the examples that are in the assessment task sheet, which you can see up on Schoology between weeks 3 and 4, there's assessment materials in there. The examples that we're basing the assignment on are medical negligence and also, I guess what you could call, enter at your own risk type negligence. In other words, people going on an adventure, people going on a ride, people bungee jumping. And there are different examples in negligence laws about some of those activities and where it is your own risk and where it is, that you should feel safe, that the theme park has, adequate safety standards in place, or the company taking you scuba diving should have adequate safety procedures in place. And so there's different technicalities and things within the law, but that kind of, injury when you're doing a recreational activity area is also an interesting one to research. Unfortunately, there are cases that exist around this all the time. So the example for the assignment for medical negligence that it briefly talks about is Ryan's Law. Ryan Saunders was a young boy who died after not receiving the right treatment at a hospital. The other case that we look at is the Dreamworld tragedy, as it's generally called. It was an incident at Dreamworld where 4 people lost their lives in 2016. And so those two incidents have led to different changes in the law, but we've got hypothetical situations around those to focus in on, and you would find other case studies that you can also use for your assignment. You come up with a thesis and then you argue for and against that particular area. And so you do have some reasons for and some reasons against what you're saying about that area of negligence law, but most of your evidence and your most persuasive language is going to be used to convince the audience of your particular take on that issue. And so that's something to keep in mind too. There are certain checkpoints that you need to be aware of. So if you were to look at the assessment task, which is up in Schoology between weeks 3 and 4 in a folder, you'll see that the draft is due on the 30th of August this year, and the final is due on the 9th of September. However, there are other checkpoints as well. So coming up in 10 days' time on the 16th of August, there's one where you have to basically tell me what your thesis is and then give me a list of possible sources that contain legal information that you wish to use. On the 23rd of August, there's a checkpoint where it's about analysing and evaluating the main points you're going to use. So sort of like summarising your arguments. And then, as I said before, the draft is due on the 30th of August and the final is due on the 9th of September. It's really important to keep these all in mind because you don't want consequences for not submitting drafting. Drafts are really, really important to have your head around. Basically, for the assignment, something else to keep in mind is that it's a good idea to use the peer structure to write your paragraphs. Please send me an email with any questions that you have and I'll address them in the next video.